Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, July 2nd, 2021, and I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with both individuals and organizations all over the world to help them do one thing and one thing only: get measurable and sustainable sales increases. I'm the founder of the Sales Pro Network, and I founded the network to elevate the profession of sales. It's a place where salespeople can come and hang out to share their stories, their challenges, get coaching from a lot of terrific people. And every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we do a live, either an interview with somebody who can add value to the world of sales, or a live sales training. If you're watching live today, please put your name in the comments, or if you've connected your account to your StreamYard, your Facebook account to StreamYard, you don't have to do that, but please do say hello. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, prospecting. It's almost everybody's least favorite subject, but as far as I'm concerned, as a sales coach and trainer, there's very little that you can do that's more important if you're going to be highly successful in your sales career than prospect consistently. So if you give me just a moment to share my screen, we're going to jump right into it. And here we go. So there truly is very little that will make you more successful in sales than prospecting actively and consistently and effectively on a daily basis. I get asked a lot of questions by the people I sell my services to, especially when I'm selling training services, because I'm speaking with vice presidents of sales. And they ask me lots of questions about selling, most of them about how do they increase sales in their organizations. And the answer, no exaggeration, the answer 50% of the time that I have to give to vice presidents of sales at large corporations all over the world is tell your lazy ass salespeople to get off their rear ends and go see more prospects. Seeing enough prospects, you could literally suck at selling. But if you're seeing enough prospects, occasionally you're going to run into some sales. Now, that's not a great strategy for huge success, hoping to run into somebody. But unless you have enough appointments, you're not going to do well in sales unless you're the most unbelievable salesperson and closer in the world, and you do a much better job than I do when I'm selling. We all need to prospect. So today, I'm going to give you 4 ways that you can prospect. We're going to do this fairly quickly because we only have 57 and a half minutes. I'm going to talk a little bit about networking, getting referrals, using LinkedIn, and the dreaded cold calling. So one of my favorite ways to develop business is through networking. There are several things which I found are important in the world of networking if you're going to use it effectively. And I can tell you this, I get about 50% of my business through networking. So the first thing that's important is you've got to choose the right group. I visit a lot of networking groups. I only belong to one. I belonged to it for 16 years, but I visited lots and lots of them, both as a guest speaker, because I come in and I'll talk about selling and give some advice, or as a guest just to take a look at the group. So quite often I find that I'll speak to people in networking groups, or I'll speak to salespeople who tell me they do networking, and I'll ask them, what is it about this group? Are you being successful? Why are you in this group? And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, no, I've been in the group. I'm not really getting in referrals, but I think it's going to work out. And when I ask how long they've been in the group, I'll get answers like a year, 2 years, sometimes even 3 years. If you're in a group for a year, 2 or 3 years, and you haven't gotten any referrals, I'm not sure what you're doing there. The purpose of being in a networking group, there can be several, but one of them is certainly get referrals for business. And if you're in the right group, it shouldn't take a year or 2. You may not get referrals immediately by being in a networking group, but it certainly shouldn't take forever. So the first thing, of course, is you have to have a good brief commercial, because in all networking groups, you go around the room and everybody gets a chance to introduce themselves. Your brief commercial needs to be A, brief, B, crystal clear. There is a technique in selling where we will say something to the prospect, which is designed to get them to say, tell me a little bit more about that, or we want them to try to draw more information out of us. This is not that time. Your brief commercial has to clearly and succinctly tell people, here's who I am, here's what I do, and most importantly, here's how I help people. I'm Jeff Goldberg with Jeff Goldberg and Associates. I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with individuals and organizations to help them increase their sales through coaching and training. Right to the point. You've got to let people know what you do so that they can understand it, because you're not looking to sell to the people into your in the same group as you. I see that happen a lot. People will end their brief commercial with, and I'd love to do business with all of you. That's a real networking no-no. That really, when somebody says that, I know they're not an effective networker. I know they're not a professional networker for sure. They don't know what they're doing. If you're ending your brief commercial with, and I'd love to do business with all of you, please stop that immediately. Of course, we all want to do business with each other, but that's kind of the cream in your coffee or the icing on your cake when you do business inside the group. The purpose of a networking group is to turn the people in the group into your extended sales force. I've got 34 other people in my group who are out there thinking about me. Now, they're not thinking about me all day long, just like I'm not thinking about them all day long. But I am in every situation looking for opportunities to introduce my group of networking partners to the world because A, I trust them implicitly. B, I only network with people who I know are going to do a great job and make me look good. And C, I want to help my clients, my prospects, or anybody else who I might introduce them to. So you want to be networking with the right people, and you want the people that you're networking with to understand what you do. So that way, when they do run into a situation when they can refer you, they know how to introduce you. The people who I network with, all I need them to listen for is asking a prospect or a client, how are sales? And all they have to listen for is not as good as they should be. And all I want them to say is, let me introduce you to my friend, Jeff Goldberg. He's a highly trusted business associate, and he's a sales coach and trainer. He helps companies like yours get measurable and sustainable sales increases. Those are the only 5 words I need my networking partners to remember. Measurable and sustainable sales increases, because that's what my prospects are looking for. So if the people I'm networking with understand that that's what I bring to the table, when they run into a situation where somebody might want to increase their sales, whether it's an individual salesperson looking for coaching or an organization looking for training, if they remember those 5 words, measurable and sustainable sales increases, I've got a good shot of getting an appointment with somebody, and then it's up to me to sell them. Now, once you're in the right group and you've developed and honed your brief commercial, and by the way, I invite any of you in the Sales Pro Network to email me your brief commercial. I'll be happy to take a look at it for you, send it back to you with any suggested edits if I have any. Sometimes people send me their brief commercials and they look terrific. Often I have to tweak them a bit. I happen to be a good writer and I'm expert at doing brief commercials. So please, it's my pleasure to help any of you. Email me your brief commercial. My email will be at the end, and I'm happy to turn it around and get it back to you as quickly as possible. Here's the thing, though. Networking doesn't really occur at the meetings. The group I'm in meets once every 2 weeks for 2 hours. Some groups meet every week, some groups meet once a month, but it doesn't really happen at the group. It happens in what I call one-on-ones, or in the group I'm in, we call them opportunity calls. And that's where I meet you or you meet me at a networking group, and one of us says to the other, hey, why don't we get to know each other? And then we have a private meeting, either with just the 2 of us, or maybe there's 3 people or 4 people getting to know each other, either face-to-face over breakfast, lunch, or dinner, maybe some cocktails, or doing it virtually via Zoom. The reason that this is so important is because nobody in their right mind is going to refer you or me unless they trust you. I don't refer anybody to my clients or my prospects, which, by the way, is who I would be introducing people to, my clients and my prospects. I'm not going to introduce anybody to them unless I know them well. Because if I don't trust you. It's not that I'm an untrusting person, but the people that I'm going to introduce you to are how I feed my children. And I can't take a risk on you making me look bad. And when I make an introduction to somebody and they don't do a good job, I'm going to hear about it from my client or my prospect. I had that happen recently. I referred 2 people to one of my clients, a very high value client to me. And one of the person he loved, he was terrific. The other person, unfortunately, passed off the referral to somebody else in her organization. And that person did not do as good a job as I know the person who I had actually referred would have. Well, you can bet I'm going to think twice before referring that person again, because she made me look bad. She didn't do it on purpose. She's a lovely person and incredibly talented at what she does. She just made a mistake by handing off the referral. So you want this to be with people that you know and trust. You've got to do these one-on-one meetings. And in these one-on-one meetings, you want to make sure that whatever time you're setting aside for it, usually about an hour, you want to make sure that you have time to speak and they have time to speak. And you want to share about who you are, what your life is, and you want to find out about theirs too. And of course, you also want to find out about their business. But the more you know about somebody personally, the more you tend to like and trust them. So share who you are, where you came from, what kind of family you've got, if any, and all that good stuff, as well as here's what I do and here's how I help people. Consistency is key. If you are in a networking group and you only show up once every 3 or 4 months, people aren't going to trust you. People want consistency. They want to see the same people over and over. There are people in the group I belong to has been in existence for 33 years. And there are people in my group who've been in it 30, 31, 32, and 33 years. I joined 16 years ago, but you can bet almost every 2 weeks I'm there unless there's something very, very important that gets in the way. And I let very little get in the way of that because I do get 50% of my business from my group. Now, if I'm off somewhere else in the world and the time zone's not right or I just can't make it, of course I'll miss a meeting here and there. But consistency, it's getting to know you and you getting to know the people in your group intimately so that you trust that when you make an introduction, they will make you look good. And I would also urge you to track your networking efforts. How many meetings do you go to? How many people do you do one-on-ones with? How many referrals have you given out? How many people actually responded to those referrals, followed up on them? How many of them worked out? In anything that you're doing regarding prospecting, you should be tracking your activity and your results so that you know if what you're doing is paying off. If not, you want to do something different. Next, referrals. Now, certainly in a networking group, the goal is to get and give referrals, but it's not just in networking groups that referrals show up. I think that one of the silliest things that salespeople can do is not ask for referrals regularly. And I think I've shared this story before in the Sales Pro Network, but for those who haven't heard it, years ago, a dear friend of mine, Randy Bussey, who's a brilliant customer service trainer, called me up from a trade show that we used to walk each year together. And that particular year, I couldn't go because I had the flu. Randy called me asking me where I was. She called me in the morning from the trade show saying, "Where are you?" I said, "Oh, I'm in bed with the flu. I'm not going to make it today. I feel horrible. I've got 103 fever. I'm sweating from places I didn't know existed." And she goes, "Well, I've been doing an informal survey. Would you like to know what the results were?" I said, "Randy, I just told you I've got the flu. I don't really want to hear it." She goes, "No, you want to hear this. I've been asking people around on the floor, how many referrals a month do you get on average?" Because who's at trade shows? A lot of salespeople. So she's speaking to a lot of salespeople, and she's asking them, on average, how many referrals do you get a month? And she said to me, "Jeff, what do you think the answer was?" And I said, "Randy, I don't know. I feel awful. I'd like to get off the phone as much as I love you. How many referrals do they get a month?" And she said the answer was 0. And then she said, I asked them, why don't they get referrals each month? What do you think they said, Jeff? And I reminded her, "Randy, really, I've got the flu. I don't feel well. Could you please just tell me?" And she said, "It's because they don't ask." And that's my experience. With almost 50 years in sales, sales management, sales coaching, and sales training, salespeople simply don't ask for referrals. So you need to ask people for your referrals. You do have to, when you're networking in any way, shape, or form, have that great brief commercial so people understand what you do. But you can ask your clients, you can ask your prospects for referrals, you can ask everyone for referrals, but you've got to ask. Now, the question often is asked of me, well, who should I be asking for referrals? Everyone. Everyone. You never know. And by the way, one of my favorite phrases in life is you never know. You never know who has a referral for you. The person sitting next to you on the bus might have a referral for you. The person behind you online in the movies, once we start going back to movies, and hopefully that's going to happen soon, and concerts and everywhere else. You never know who knows somebody that needs your services. And if you're not asking them, if you're not interacting with them, if they don't know what it is that you do, you're not going to get them. So you want to make sure that you ask people. If I close business, I ask for referrals. If I don't close business, I ask for referrals. When I go through a sales process and it ends up somebody chooses not to do business with me, I still ask them for referrals. Why? Just because they are not choosing to do business with me right now doesn't mean they don't know other people who might be interested. And in fact, if you do your job properly during the sales process, you treat people with courtesy, you're an expert at what you do, you give them good advice, you consistently add value, even if they say, "I'm not going to do business with you," they may feel sort of an obligation to be reciprocal because you've given them some good information, even though they're not hiring you. You've added value. They may very well feel a need to do something nice for you. And the law of reciprocity does take over. The law of reciprocity says if I do something nice for you, you're going to tend to want to do something nice for me. So if I've treated you well during the sales process, even though you're not going to do business with me right now, you may very well have referrals for me. So ask everyone. If I sit next to you on an airplane I promise you, if I don't know you already and don't recognize you, I'm going to start a conversation with you. And the conversation is going to sound like this. Hi, my name is Jeff. What's yours? When you tell me your name, I'm going to say, I'm just curious. What do you do for a living? Now, do I really care what they do for a living? Maybe to some extent, but what I really care about is when they explain to me what they do for a living, when they finish, they're going to ask me, what do you do for a living? And I am very well prepared to explain to them exactly what I do for a living. And I will say, who do you know that I should be speaking with? That's the phrase I would urge you to use when you're asking for referrals. Not, do you know anybody who I should be speaking with? That's a yes or no question. I want people to turn their mental Rolodex when you ask, who do you know that I should be speaking with? In fact, the phrase I like to use is, as you may or may not know, I build my business through direct referrals from people just like you. I build my business through direct referrals from people just like you. Who do you know that I should be speaking with? And then simply stop talking and wait. Give people a chance. Now, they very well might say, I don't know anybody right now, but if something comes to mind, I'll let you know. Great. Or they might just say, you know what? I spoke to somebody just the other day who told me his sales were off. Let me introduce the two of you. Now, since we're asking everybody for referrals, the next thing is when somebody is going to give you a referral, the first words out of your mouth should be, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll do everything I possibly can to make sure I do my job properly and make you look good, whether I get the business or not. And then I'm going to ask this question. Would it help if I wrote an email of introduction for you? I'll email it to you. You can edit it any way you like, change it any way you want to. And then you can just cut and paste it into a new email and send it off to the person you're going to introduce me to. Now, the reason I'm asking that question is because everybody says yes to that. Everybody says yes. Why? Because you're making their life easy. They're doing you a favor by making a referral for you, by introducing you to somebody. And if I can make their life easier to do that, make it easier for them to do that, they should be pretty interested in that. And in fact, everybody always says yes. Now, here's the reason why I want to do it. There are two. The first one is, even though you're kind enough to offer to give me a referral, or you're going to do it because I asked you to do it, even though you're kind enough to do that, it's not the most important thing on your mind. And you may take a while to get to it, especially if you have to kind of write up the email of introduction and put the words together to make it right. When I say, how about if I write the email for you and I'll send it to you, you can edit it any way you like. I'm making your life easier, and I'm making it way more likely that this referral is going to happen quickly, that they're going to do it right away, because there's really no work involved. If I write the email and send it to you, all you have to do is cut and paste it into a new email, because you don't want to forward it. You don't want the person you're referring me to see that I was included on this or that I wrote the referral message. So you cut and paste it into a new email, send it off. I've made your life easy. It's more likely to happen more quickly. The other reason I want to offer to write the referral is because the person making the referral for you may not say the words about you that you want them to say, may not express clearly enough what it is you bring to the table and why the person they're introducing you to should take a meeting with you. And I'll give you an example. Several years back, a friend of mine made an introduction for me. Didn't tell me he was going to, just made an introduction for me, copied me on the email, and it was really, really nice of him. This is somebody from my networking group who I love. He loves me. He knows what I do. I know what he does. Happy to refer him anytime. And he does when he can for me too. His referral introduction on the email, as I read it, said, "Dear Steve, I'm writing to introduce you to Jeff Goldberg, a very competent sales trainer." And then he went on to describe some of the things I do. He helps you get more appointments with decision makers and shorten your sales cycle and close more business more profitably and stuff like that. Now, here's the thing. The next time I saw my friend, I asked him, "Hey, Dave, first of all, thank you so much for that introduction. That was really nice of you, but I'm curious about something. Why did you introduce me as a competent sales trainer?" And he looked me in the eye and he said, "Jeff, you're amazingly competent. Of course I'm going to introduce you as competent." And my question was, "But why competent?" He goes, "I don't understand. You are competent." I said, "Steve," actually, I think I said Dave. I'm not giving you his real name because I don't want to give the guy up. I said, "Dave, I'm so far beyond competent, I can't even see it in the rearview mirror. I'm amazing. I'm astounding. I do incredible work. I provide incredible results. Why didn't you say any of those things?" And his answer was, because I don't like to oversell. Now, I can appreciate that. I can really, truly appreciate that somebody doesn't want to oversell. But when you're making an introduction, you want to give a person a good reason to accept that referral and take a meeting. And a competent sales trainer, I can tell you this, nobody that hires me is looking for a competent sales trainer. People, I've given a lot of thought to it, by the way. The people that hire me are looking for the best trainer they can possibly find at a price they feel is reasonable and that they can actually afford, but they're looking for the best. They're not looking for competent. So writing the email yourself, offering to write the email yourself means the person who's receiving the referral is going to hear the words that you want them to hear. You want to make sure that you're reminding people on a regular basis that you'd like referrals. And here's one last thought on getting referrals. And this is a conversation I've had with my coach more than once. She does not ask for referrals. And we've kind of argued about it, but we've certainly discussed it emotionally, let's say. She's passionate about it, and I am too. She feels it's rude to ask for referrals. I completely disagree. But here's her theory. If you are incredible at what you do, if you're so good at what you do, you don't have to ask for referrals. Now, I consider myself pretty darn good at what I do. And I do get unrequested referrals on a regular basis, but I still ask. She, however, is so amazing at her job, she never has to ask. She actually wouldn't do it. She would consider it rude. And she thinks the people that she would be asking for referrals, her clients, would think less of her. I disagree. But I do agree with this. Be amazing at what you do. Put everything into what you do every single time and do great work. When you do great work, people are more willing to give you referrals. Let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn. I consider LinkedIn to be the salesperson's best friend. However, most people are not using it effectively. There are some truly incredible experts, and I am not one of them when it comes to LinkedIn. I've brought you amazing experts like Beth Granger, like Bryn Tillman, like Joe Apfelbaum, and others, Mark Halpert. I brought you incredible people, and if you don't remember, just go back to the media tab in the Sales Pro Network or into our YouTube channel. Those interviews are all there. In fact, we had Bryn Tillman, Beth Granger, and Joe Apfelbaum, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, all three of them. These are true experts who can give you amazing advice and coaching on how to use LinkedIn effectively. But I'd like to give you some of the basic tips that I know to be true. The first thing is your profile has to be good. People are going to LinkedIn to look at you before you do business with them. Or if they're doing a search, they may come across your name because they're searching for a particular type of service or product. So you want to make sure your profile looks good. And that starts with your profile picture. As opposed to a Facebook cover picture, you want your profile picture on LinkedIn to be professional. This is not the place to be holding a fish or doing something stupid. You want to be bonging or drinking a beer? That's for Facebook. But LinkedIn is for professionals. This is where salespeople and a lot of other people hang out. Sales leaders hang out here. All kinds of amazing people hang out on LinkedIn. You want your profile picture to be professional. These days, an iPhone camera takes great pictures. Guys, put on a suit and tie or at least a suit jacket. Look professional. Ladies, I can't tell you how to dress, but look professional. People, the first thing people see, because we're visual human beings, they see your picture and they're going to make a snap judgment. So make sure your picture looks good. The next thing is, and I just found this out, I think it was 2 days ago, there's something new on LinkedIn, and it's called a cover story. I think you have to be a creator, a LinkedIn creator to do that. And I can't remember, I just figured this out recently. It's just a switch that you turn on. But once you turn that on, you can adjust, you can put in a cover story on your profile. And here's what that means. The little circle that has your picture in it on your phone. This won't work on your desktop, by the way. You have to go on your phone, and if you are a creator on LinkedIn, you press on your profile picture, the little circle at the top left, and then there will be something that says View Profile. View Profile. When you do that, it will give you an option to create a cover story. Now, here's how brilliant this is. Your cover story is a 30-second record, up to 30-second recording, and you can say anything you want about yourself in this cover story. Now, I believe if somebody just hovers their mouse over your picture and you have a cover story, it will give them a 3 or 5 second preview. So it'll give them the first 3 or 5 seconds of what your recording is. But if they actually click on your cover, your picture, then they'll see your 30-second video. And I haven't created one yet. It's on my list to do over the holiday weekend, but it's going to be something like, hi, I'm Jeff Goldberg. I help people increase their sales. I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with individuals and organizations all over the world to help them get measurable and sustainable sales increases. I don't know, that was about 15 seconds. I'll probably put in a few more words, but having video on your profile, I think, is a brilliant thing. And LinkedIn's letting you do it for free. Remember, you can only record that on your phone. It doesn't work on your desktop. And I only know that because I spent about 40 minutes yesterday trying to figure it out until I finally reached out to a friend who, it was Joe Applebaum, who knows what he's talking about. He said, I think you can only do it on your phone. So put a profile picture that looks good and put in a cover story. Then in your about section below your, let's move up one. There's a headline that you can put in under your profile picture. You can say anything you want in that headline. Now, a lot of times I'll see people in sales putting things like account executive, account representative, VP sales. Those are titles. And it's not like those are a bad thing. But this is free advertising. And after your picture, it's the first thing that people look at. So mine currently says sales problem solver, because that's what I do. I change it on a fairly regular basis. I've used sales guru. I've used sales expert. I've used sales coach. I've used helping you attain measurable and sustainable sales increases. I keep trying different things to see what gets the best result. But use that acreage, that space to put in a message so that when people go to your profile and see your picture, they immediately have a sense of, oh, here's how this person can help me. Now, below that is the about section. This is not the section for your resume. I'm not interested in your background here. There is a section for your experience, and that's where you put your resume. But in the about section, here's where you should be speaking directly to your prospects. Directly to your prospects. When you write your about section, I want you to imagine that a prospect is on your profile reading about you. So you want to share how you help people. People are always listening for the what's in it for me. If I talk to Jeff Goldberg, what's in it for me? Why should I talk to him at all? Well, if you read my about section, you'll see why. Because I help people increase their sales. So make sure that you use that about section to promote yourself. I'm not saying you should overblow what you do. I'm not saying you should lie, cheat, or exaggerate, but let people clearly and distinctly know, here's how I help people just like you. Look, I don't meet with anybody without looking at their LinkedIn profile first. I interview a lot of salespeople because I hire for various companies that use me. I look at everybody's LinkedIn profile first. And if your LinkedIn profile isn't good, I'm not interested in talking to you. If you can't write a couple of sentences that are articulate and can promote yourself, I'm not interested in you as a salesperson. Make sure your about section is good. I want to go a little further down on the profile to the section that says recommendations. You should have as many recommendations as you possibly can. I'm not talking about endorsements. I'm talking about written recommendations. The difference between the two is people can just click on a button and say they endorse you for sales or training or something like that. But a recommendation, somebody has to take the time to write that for you. And I put a heck of a lot more stock in something that somebody took the time to write about you when they're endorsing you than just clicking the endorsement button. Now, there's two things that I think are useful in getting recommendations. One is you can ask somebody for a recommendation. I think, and we need one of our experts to chime in here, but I think you can only request a recommendation from a first level connection. I'm not positive of that, but you can, certainly with a first level connection, you can go to somebody else's profile. So let's say my friend Beth Granger. If I go to her profile, I can actually click on a button and say, request a recommendation. And then a thing will pop up and I'll be able to say, hey, Beth, I'd love it if you'd write a recommendation for me. It'll go to Beth, and then she has to decide whether she wants to write a recommendation for me or not. If she's kind enough to do that, she'll write out a couple of sentences or maybe a paragraph or two. And I will then get a notification from LinkedIn saying, here's what Beth says about you. I can either publish it immediately if I like what she said, or I have the opportunity to go back to her and say, hey, would you mind making a few changes? You misspelled this, or this doesn't look right, or could you say this instead? I try my best every time I write a recommendation for somebody, but sometimes I make a mistake, or sometimes somebody does request that I'll change it, and I'm happy to do so. So you can ask people for recommendations. The other thing you can do is give people recommendations, because again, the law of reciprocity tends to go into play. If I give you a recommendation and you receive it out of nowhere, you're going to say, wow, that guy Jeff's a great guy. I can't believe he's writing a recommendation for me. I didn't even ask him for it. Wonder what I can do for him. Most likely, once I do a recommendation for you, you're going to want to do one for me too. So those are two ways you can get recommendations. And the more recommendations you have on your profile, the better off you are. Now, the way most salespeople use LinkedIn is they look to connect with other people. And they want to connect with as many people as they possibly can, because the hope is if I connect with enough people, someone might be interested in doing business with me. All right, not a terrible philosophy. However, I think you want to be a little bit more tactical and a little bit more strategic. First of all, my advice to salespeople is you should only connect with people that you are willing to recommend. Because LinkedIn was originally designed for networking purposes. It's like a networking group that meets face to face, but it's online networking. It's virtual networking without the Zoom calls that we're all used to in the last year and a half. So because it was designed for networking, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're reaching out to people that we would actually refer. If you wouldn't refer somebody, that's networking. If you wouldn't refer them, or if you wouldn't be willing to take the time to get to know them and possibly refer them, don't connect with them. That's one philosophy. The other one is you want to connect with as many people as possible because you're a content creator and you create lots of content. You want more people to see your content. That's what I do. However, the truth is, if you reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, hey, Jeff, I noticed you're connected with so-and-so. Can you make an introduction? 95% of the time, it's no, because I don't really know these people. But I produce a lot of content on LinkedIn, and we'll get to that in a second. The other thing about connections, and this is the huge mistake, and we've talked about this before in the Sales Pro Network way more than once, but I can't say it enough. When somebody connects with you and you accept that connection, let me make it about me. If someone connects with me and I accept their connection, they say, hey, Jeff, I'd like to connect on LinkedIn for whatever reason, and I accept their connection, the last thing I want to see is a note from them immediately saying, hey, Jeff, I'd like to get together and talk to you about how we help coaches like you increase their sales. I feel violated when that happens. I feel used when that happens. It means you didn't really want to connect with me. What you wanted to do was sell me. And I don't mind if you want to sell me, but be straight about it. Let me know, I want to sell you something. Please connect with me so we can talk about it. By the way, I'm not going to accept that connection. But if you're going to do that, at least be straight about it. Don't connect with me to make me think, let's network and see if we can help each other's business, and then immediately go into a sales pitch. I usually give the example of that's kind of like me walking into a bar, walking up to a woman and saying, hey, want to come back to my place? No conversation, no drinks, no nothing. Just come on back to my place. I like to say that maybe if I looked like Brad Pitt, that would work occasionally, but I look like me. I don't know if it works because I don't do that, but that's kind of the way it feels to me. Maybe if we have a few drinks and some conversation, more likely if we have a few dates and form a relationship, then you'll come back to my place. But when somebody connects with you and immediately sends you a sales pitch, I'm completely turned off. Please don't do that. However, what you can do is connect with people who you would like to be your prospects and form a relationship with them. Add value to them. Share content with them that you think would help them. Share, maybe you've written a white paper or something. Use Google to find an article that would help them do their business better and send that to them. Give generously. Once you've earned the right, after you've helped people, then you can bring up, hey, I'd love to talk to you about our products or our services, or I'd love to have a conversation about possibly doing business together and exploring some possibilities. The key is you've got to give value. You've got to consistently help people and earn the right to ask them for their business or even to ask them for a sales conversation. If you don't do that, I think you're making a huge mistake. Now, I have sometimes had people argue with me, Jeff, I get those all the time, so don't tell me not to do it. They must be working. I don't know. I think the only people who are making money are the people who give courses on automating and using LinkedIn in the method that I just described to you. Connect and immediately try to sell. There are all kinds of programs that teach people how to do that. I don't think it's working, though. You could argue that it's a numbers game, that if you send out 1,000 of those, maybe 2 people will be interested. Okay. I'm a little bit concerned, though, about the 998 who are going to be pissed off. I'd rather be a little more elegant in my sales process and the way I'm connecting with people and going to the point where I feel I've earned the right to sell them. So that's my final take on LinkedIn. I think it should be in every salesperson's arsenal. I believe in a blended approach. Let's talk about the thing that most people hate the most, telephone prospecting. So I have people argue with me constantly about this, telling me that cold calling is dead. You can't do it. Nobody picks up the phone. Nobody listens to their messages. Nobody returns your calls. You just can't do it. It's a waste of time. Okay. It's okay by me if you believe that. In fact, I'd like you to believe that, because the less of you that are cold calling, the more people that I train to do it, they're going to have a better reception, because less people are cold calling the prospects that they want to cold call. Here's the thing. Cold calling on the telephone, if you know how to do it well, is still the most cost effective and time efficient way to get appointments if you don't have enough. It's the most cost effective and time efficient way to fill your calendar up with appointments if you simply know how to do it well. Give me 1 second. So the first thing is, take a look at the smile on this guy's face. Most of you will recognize this from The Wolf of Wall Street. He's got a big smile on his face, and there's a reason. You want to sound good when you're talking to somebody on the phone. Nobody wants to talk to a mope. Now, I don't think you have to be over the top like a radio DJ. Hey, it's Jeff in the morning, news and traffic next. You don't have to be that guy, but you do have to have a good attitude. And you want to remember that when you're prospecting by phone, when you're speaking to somebody by phone, they only have two ways that they can judge what you're doing, understand what you're saying to them. One is the words you choose to use, and two is your tone of voice. And a study showed that 84% of how somebody understands you when you communicate with them over the phone is based on your tone of voice. 16% is based on your words. I tell people to smile and dial, not just because it's a cute saying, but because you sound better when you have a smile on your face. And I know I look like an idiot when I do this, but I promise you, when I'm talking on the phone, I'm smiling like this. It's almost impossible to sound blah when you have a big smile on your face. I also advise people to stand up like I am right now when you are making phone calls. It's okay if you're making your phone call sitting down, but as it's ringing, stand up. Why? Because you sound better when you stand. First of all, your diaphragm expands when you stand. When you sit, it's crunched. So you speak better. You sound better when you stand. You breathe better. And when you stand, you tend to gesture more naturally like you do in a real conversation. And that's what telephone prospecting should sound like. It should sound like a real conversation. It actually should sound like you're talking, excuse me, it should sound like you're talking to your best friend minus the profanity. So you have to understand that, by the way, if you guys are putting comments in, I can't see them because all I can see is my presentation. So I apologize. When we finish, I'll take a look and see if there's any comments and answer any questions, which will be about another 10 or 15 minutes. So first thing to understand is that you are practicing interruptive marketing. Email marketing is interruptive marketing. Cold calling is interruptive marketing. Much of what we do is interruptive marketing, but certainly calling on the phone, because nobody is sitting around waiting for you to call them. Nobody's sitting around waiting for me to call them. I don't think there's a vice president of sales in a large organization today that's sitting there at their desk right now going, wow, I hope a sales trainer like Jeff Goldberg calls me right now because I've got nothing else to do. No, they're busy. They're busy doing other stuff. So we have to understand that when we cold call, if we're fortunate enough to get somebody on the phone, we are doing interruptive marketing. And that means we better be really good at what we're doing. So there are two ways that I teach putting together an opening script. I do believe you need an opening script. Now, look, before I go on, I'll tell you the best possible thing you can do when you're cold calling is just have a natural conversation. But most salespeople are not experienced enough to work without some kind of script, at least for the opening, or at least until you feel comfortable enough that you no longer need the script. My goal when I train salespeople how to cold call is get you off script as quickly as possible, because you can, if you're not looking at the words and reading them, then you can put more emphasis into them. You sound more natural. But in the beginning, if you need a script, use it. And you do need a script initially if you're not good at this, because this conversation happens very fast. Cold calling is very, very fast. Your prospect has their script ready. They have their, I'm not interested, or I'm happy with my current provider, or I'm busy, or send me some, it's tattooed on the inside of their eyelids. They say the same thing to everybody who calls. So because it happens quickly, you've got to be prepared. So there are two methods I've been teaching. First of all, for years, I taught the slap them in the face method. That's what I call it. And I'm going to share it with you in a moment. In the last year and a half, 2 years, I've been sharing permission-based marketing. And wow, I think almost a year and a half ago, we had Jason Bay on, who's really brilliant at this. If you're not following him on LinkedIn, I think you should. Jason, Jasonbay, Bay. He's a young guy, really, really great with permission-based marketing. I think his company is Blissful Prospecting. You can look him up on the internet. So slap him in the face is very direct. And it would sound like this. Let's say I'm calling our friend Joe Apfelbaum. If I was calling Joe Apfelbaum and he didn't know me, I'm cold calling him, slap him in the face call would sound like this. He would answer the phone somehow. This is Joe or Ajax Union or whatever he would say it. And I'd say, hey, Joe, this is Jeff Goldberg from Jeff Goldberg and Associates. We're a sales coaching and training firm. We work with companies just like yours to help you get measurable and sustainable sales increases. Now, Joe, the specific reason I'm calling you today is to set an appointment. I'd love to come by, find out what you're currently doing about increasing sales, tell you just a little bit about what we do, and see if there just might be a match. How's next Tuesday at 3? That's slap him in the face marketing. He picked up the phone. I smacked him in the face with exactly who I am and what I do. Now, I've been teaching this for a long, long time, and it works. That's slap him in the face. Permission-based marketing, I truly think, is the way to go. Now, here's the interesting thing, and I'm about to give you an example of permission-based marketing, but when I teach both methodologies, inevitably, everybody in the audience says, nope, I like slap them in the face better. But when they experiment with both, what they typically find is permission-based marketing works better. See, I'm a big fan of testing and measuring everything I do. Any type of outbound marketing, any type of outbound prospecting I'm doing, or inbound, I'm measuring that too. I want to measure everything because I don't want to go with what my gut feels is working. I want data. I want real numbers so that I know this is working, that's not working, this is working better than that, that's working better than this. So you want to test everything. Try slap them in the face marketing, try permission-based marketing. I don't care which one you use. I really don't. I have no attachment to anything other than whatever works best for you. So permission-based marketing would sound like this. If I called that same gentleman, Joe Apfelbaum, would sound like this. Hey, Joe, this is Jeff Goldberg from Jeff Goldberg and Associates. I'm sure I caught you at a busy time. I'm wondering if I could just have 30 seconds to explain why I'm calling. And at the end of the 30 seconds, I'll ask you if you'd like to continue the conversation and you can say yes or no. Is that fair enough? Now, here's why I like this method so much and why I think it's the way to go. You are empowering the prospect. You're empowering the person that you've called. And the fact is, they are already empowered. When you do cold calling, your prospect has the control. They can hang up the phone. They can swear at you and then hang up the phone. They can listen to you and give you an appointment. They can listen to you and not give you an appointment, but they're really in control. And you, by saying, I'm sure I caught you at a busy time, you're acknowledging what's probably slow. I'm wondering if I could have just 30 seconds. You're asking permission for 30 seconds. Now, here's the thing. I'm a very busy guy. I'm running a business. I have a lot on my mind all day long, and I'm trying to make money to feed my 3 children. However, if you call me up and I pick up the phone and you ask for 30 seconds, I got that. I don't have 10 minutes to talk to you. I don't even have 5 minutes to talk to you, but I do have 30 seconds. And if you are good enough in that 30 seconds by clearly explaining to me who you are, what you do, and why I should listen to you, and why I might want to take a meeting with you, well, then I might just give you more time, even though I'm busy. But I don't have time for a 10-minute conversation right off the bat, which slap in the face marketing tends to do. So I would advise permission-based marketing, but try both, see which one works best for you, and then stick with that. So in scripting, you want to greet them by name. If you don't know how to find names, reach out to me. I can give you a couple of methodologies for finding people's names in companies if you don't already have them. The reason you want to greet people by name is it gets their attention. Everybody responds to their own name. In fact, Dale Carnegie, who wrote the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, said, the sweetest sound to anybody is the sound of their own name. So you want to greet them by name because it gets their attention. Remember, we're practicing interruptive marketing. So we're interrupting what they're doing. They're writing an email, they're reading an email, they're chasing their secretary around their desk, they're eating lunch or ordering lunch. They're doing something else. So greeting them by name, even though they picked up their phone, it catches in their ear and they go, okay, I'm paying attention. Then you have to identify yourself and your company. You're asking for 30 seconds and you're telling them at the end of the 30 seconds, I will ask you again if you want to continue the conversation. It'll be completely up to you. Yes is fine, no is fine. Then if they say, fine, you've got 30 seconds. So again, I'm Jeff Goldberg from Jeff Goldberg and Associates. We're a sales training and coaching firm. And then you can go on to describe what you do. And most importantly, how you help people like them. Then make sure that you are honorable. At the end of the 30 seconds, please say something like, that's why I'm calling. Would you like to continue the conversation? If now's not a good time, we can set an appointment. Or if you have a few minutes, we can talk further right now. Ask permission. If they say no, be polite and respectful. Move on to somebody else. You might also ask before you get off the phone, could I send you some information? That's usually not a great way to develop business, sending information, because most people don't read it, but at least it gives you a chance. But be respectful. Ask for people. Ask for people. Oh my God, I just got a message from somebody saying, when will the video start? I sure hope you guys are seeing this. Carl Hymans, I just saw your message. I hope that you somehow got on, and I hope this is showing. Anyways, ask for the 30 seconds. Tell them why you called. Ask for more time. And if not, be respectful and move on. You do have to be prepared to describe what it is that you bring to the table. Why should people give you more time? Why should people listen to you? Why should people actually take a meeting with you? Ask for the 30 seconds, go a little further, build value, and see if you can get them to give you the appointment. Now, you also need to be prepared for if they say no, because most people's knee-jerk reaction when you're cold calling, especially if you do slap them in the face marketing, where we get to the end of that and say, how's Tuesday at 3, and we ask for an appointment, the typical response is one of 7 objections, and you've got to be prepared. I've given you an example here for when people say, I'm happy with my current provider, I'm happy with who I'm using now. What you want to do is the opposite of what the typical salesperson does. And the typical salesperson argues with a prospect. Here's the thing. You can never win a fight with a prospect. If you argue with your prospect, you can't win. They can always hang up. They can give you the appointment or not. They can give you the sale or not. So arguing doesn't make sense. So when somebody says to you, well, I'm happy with who I'm using now, the typical salesperson says something like, oh, you're using those guys? Those guys suck. We're great. You should use us. Well, that's not a really good way to get appointments, because when you tell people the people that they're using now suck, what you're saying is, oh, you're an idiot, because you probably talked to the person who hired those people. And if they say, I'm using those guys, and you say those guys suck, you're not going to say those words, but in essence, that's what the typical salesperson says. You're saying you're an idiot. You should use me. And when you call people idiots, they tend to not give you an appointment. That's just one out of the 7 objections. There are 7 objections that you get. I promise you there's only 7. People will say to you, I'm happy with my current provider. I'm just not interested. I'm busy. Send me some information. I'm under contract to someone else. I don't have a budget for that, or I've had a bad experience in the past with your company. If you're prepared for those 7 objections, you've got a good chance, or at least a better chance of getting an appointment than if you're not. So when you're cold calling, be prepared, because the conversation happens very, very quickly. Know how you're going to open the call. Script out your rebuttals to any objections so that you're prepared, and to a certain extent, understand it is a numbers game. It's both a skills game and a numbers game, but the more calls you make, the more times you dial the phone, the greater the likelihood of you getting an appointment. Of course, you also should know how to get past a gatekeeper and how to leave a good voicemail. We can talk about that some other time if we need to. And if you need help with anything about this, please feel free to reach out to me. My phone number and email are below. If you remember earlier, I said if you want to send me your brief commercial, here's the email, jeff@jgsalespro.com, and I'm happy to help at any time. Now, I was speaking to a member of the Sales Pro Network the other day who was asking for some advice, and she asked me, hey, Jeff, you've been doing this for a while now, and you never offer your services. Why is that? Well, here's the thing. I did not form the Sales Pro Network to sell you my services. Obviously, like everybody, I need business too. So I'd love to do business with any of you, but I didn't form this group just to have a place to sell my stuff. However, I am a sales coach and I am a sales trainer. And if there's something I can do for you, I'd love to speak about doing business together. You guys can always reach me at 516-608-4136, or my email is jeff@jgsalespro.com. And I'm always happy to have a conversation about helping you in any way, shape, or form. If I can give you some quick advice, I'm happy to do that. And if you want to talk about doing business together, I'm happy to share how my programs work. That's it for today. I hope that this actually came through. Oh, look, here's some comments. Okay, here we go. Let me take a quick look at the comments and see if there are any questions. Good morning, Steve Kent. Good morning, Mark Lawrence, Fat Boy Fit Club. Good to see you here, my friend. A couple of Facebook users whose names I don't know. Good morning, Dr. Rich Atkins. Happy to see you here. Larry Weiss, the phone guy. Pleasure. Donald Levine, our executive recruiter from Westbury, Long Island, all the way up from Halifax. Steve Feswick, haven't seen you for a long time. A Facebook user says, you are so right in the networking. When did outside sales in 2 groups and connecting with like go-getter sales reps is where got referrals, but more important to be part of the group. I'm having a little trouble understanding this on the spot, but yes, networking is a great way to develop business. Let's see. Showing up is half the battle. That's a Woody Allen quote. Larry Weiss says, my business is strictly by referral, and it's surprising where referrals come from. Absolutely. My slides are not moving. The slides haven't changed since I started the program. Jesus Christmas. I'm so sorry, guys. Wow. Okay. I'm going to have to look at going back to Zoom for this. I changed over a while back when Zoom stopped connecting well with Facebook. I might have to see if I can go back, because I apologize for you having to stare at my first slide all the time. And I apologize for you now having to stare at my ugly mug. At any rate, guys, if I can help you in any way, shape, or form, please do reach out to me. And remember this. First of all, it's the 4th of July holiday. Please have a safe and wonderful holiday here on the East Coast. Let's pray that we don't get rained out, because it doesn't look good for the next couple of days. And as always, remember this. Sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Thanks, everybody.